Hello, it's Chris at the Derwent Valley School of Creative Woodwork. Today it's the Melbourne Cup, one of the biggest races in the calendar in Australia, and the country will be shutting down at 3 o'clock to have a look at that. Today I want to talk about foundation skills. I was asked the other day about where do I begin my journey if I'm interested in starting to set up my small workshop or set up my garage. And in the past I've suggested expensive equipment which is quite easily and beyond the wallet of most people, and probably not going to get them across each stage of the production. So I have a project in front of me, just a nice little introductory project which incorporates a lot of skills in the foundation area. Here we have a book match panel, we've got some timber hinges, some hardware, and I'm just looking at the tooling that you would need in order to finish a project like this. These projects generally require just a little bit of background, a little bit of research, and I'm always a fan of, even as old as they are, there's some fantastic information, real foundation skills, very logical, very sequential. A book here by John Walton, and this one by Ernest Joyce, and a well-known Englishman revised it many years ago, called Alan Peters. I have a selection of tools which fit into each of the categories. There is a classification of tools that are very logical to get you from the beginning to the end of a project. At the beginning of the project you're going to need your marking and setting out tools. So you're going to need pencils, you're going to need rulers, squares, marking gauges. Well, this is a particularly nice, this is a beautiful tool, Veritas marking gauge. It has some calibrations and measurements. It's retractable so the cutting tip disappears, so it won't be damaged. It stands up on the bench, it can be easily housed, and they are a joy to use. Lovely materials. The marking and setting out tools. I also like to include in my workshop the vernier calipers. I find that as you get a bit older and your eyes start to fade a little bit, that the digital readout is so useful, so accurate, and it makes measuring a joy. Marking and setting out tools. Generally, so you've got your project underway, you started marking out some of the components, we need to cut something. So we've got the saws. You can buy very expensive Japanese saws, or you can go to Bunnings, the local hardware store, and buy yourself a crosscut saw with probably around about, in the old measurement, about 20 teeth to the inch, and that will get you across most of your work. But there are a variety of beautiful hand saws available, dovetail saws, tenon saws, and so on. The paring and shaving tools, planes, you can just begin with this is a jack plane, this has a number on it, this is actually a number 5, so if I'm making a coffee table and I need to plane the edges and join some boards together, then I need to flatten it and get the panel for the top ready. I can do all that work with the one plane. But I am going to need to be able to sharpen my paring and shaving tools. Everything in woodwork is, we are severing the fibres. We need to be able to cut very accurately, we need to be able to enjoy it, and so we need very sharp equipment. Behind me I have a fantastic sharpening station which gets me across the grinding, the honing and the buffing. And you'll quickly find that you lose the shape of your chisels and your plane blades, you need to regrind them and then buff and polish them. Once you've done the cutting and you've done some paring, we have our shaping tools. Now obviously router bits are a big part of shaping in the modern world, but everyone should have a decent grasp, some files, different types of files. Have to think of the section, whether they're round, triangular, square. A nice selection of files, sharp files. There's nothing more soul destroying than trying to shape material with equipment that has a dull edge. And if you can actually see the cutting edges and if there's a reflection, what we call the candle, then they're ready for resharpening. So you can buy some fairly simple, cheap grinding equipment and honing stones from any hardware store. The percussion and impelling tools, yes, they're cheap as chips, but you do need a nice soft one, and you do something a bit more persuasive, that when you need to give things a bit more of a tap, you do need to have a couple of noisy tools, hammers, rubber mallets, wooden mallets for the assembly of your projects. Scraping and abrading tools, cabinet scrapers for that classical cabinet making when you're looking to remove material where there's really cranky grain. I tend to get across that process with sanding equipment that's available in this workshop, but a very simple, cheap cabinet scraper, when you're shown how to create the burr on the edge of the cabinet scraper, that you can create a beautiful finish quite simply. But it is a skill, and you need to be shown that once or twice and have a bit of a practice. The drilling and boring tools, these are relatively cheap. They've got carbide tips. They are a joy to use. They give a lovely shaving, and they need to be housed in a box or on a wall so that they maintain their sharp cutting tips. So just in a little bit of a summary, if we're going to make something that looks like this box, then we would need to be able to use the marking and setting out tools. We need to be able to do some sawing. We need to be able to do some paring and shaving with planes and chisels. We need to be able to do some shaping, and then we need to be able to do some assembly. And of course then we need materials and some glues and perhaps some hardware. So in the coming weeks we'll have a look at in more depth at some of these classifications that enable us to make a project from the start to the beginning. The next phase of my workshop, and I perhaps missed one of the most critical things, you need a good bench. You need to have a good, robust, solid bench that you can have clamps, and you can pin material down so you can plane surfaces flat, you can sand things, you can hold things securely. So you do need a good, solid workbench with a vise, or perhaps two, for holding pieces of timber of different shapes. Whether you're going to plane something in that, there's always a need for that extra set of hands in the workshop. The next thing I would move towards is an extraction system, a small extraction system, so that you can remove your dust and waste from the workshop. Some sort of mechanical sanding facility, so that you can get through those coarse, medium and fine grits before you can purchase polyurethane, a white pine polyurethane, which is a fantastic finish. It's been highly recommended and written about for some time now. A beautiful product. You don't need an extraction system, spray gun and so on. Easy to use, durable, lovely luster, lovely gloss finish, easy finish.